Okay, now we come to the next chapter of bio in standard 9th from Concise biology, that is tissue, plants and animal tissue. So what we are having over here is tissues. Now, so of course in this chapter we are going to learn about plants and animal tissue. Now, but before we learn that, what are tissues? See, we saw in the earlier chapter that cell is the structural unit of our body. That means each and every part of our body is made up of cell. Now, when a number of cells come together and they are given a specific function, then that set of cells, they club together to form one kind of a structure called as tissues. So we can say tissues are set of cells which are going to perform the same function. Similarly, these tissues, if they are clubbed together to do a particular function, those tissues form the organ. Like for example, cell hai, cells combine हुए and they form the tissues of the cardiac heart, that is cardiac tissues. Now, those tissues combine together to form the heart. Heart and another kind of these organs like the arteries, veins, aorta, all the different kinds of things which are connected to the heart, they form the organ system, which is nothing but the circulatory system in ourselves. So we see cells combine to form tissue, tissues combine to form organ, organs combine to form organ system like circulatory system, and so many different systems combine together to form this organism, that is our body or maybe plant body. Got it? So in this way, the hierarchy in which the things are going to club together to form one unit is cells combine to form tissue. So it will be this way: cells combine to form tissue, tissue combine to form organ, organ combine to form organ system, and organ systems combine to form organism. Okay, so this is how the organism, that is our body, a plant body, is going to be formed by multiplication of cells and multiplication of tissues, tissues multiply to form organ, organ multiplying to form organ system, not multiplying, combining to form organ system combined to form this whole body of ours. So we see a single cell working on its own would achieve very little inside an animal or plant body. So many similar cells lying side by side work together as a team to perform the same function. Such groups are called tissues. So as I told you, tissues are a group of cells which are grouping together to form the same, to perform the same function. We'll describe here only the more common plant and animal tissues. So tissues, the team of workers. A tissue is a group of similar cells performing specific function. That's the definition of tissue. It is a group of cells, group of similar cells performing a specific function. Most plants and animals possess a tissue system. The human body, for example, has an epithelial tissue covering the skin, the muscular tissue made up of the muscle cells, which by contracting bring about the movements. In a plant, the conducting tissue conducts water upwards from the soil and to the aerial parts, and the food prepared from the leaves to the lower parts. So we know that is the xylem and phloem, which we'll be learning later on. Relationship between tissue, organ system and organism. Several tissues together contribute to some specific function inside the body, constitute to form an organ. So tissues form an organ such as the tongue, having epithelial nerve cells, muscle cells, etc. combined together to form the tongue. Many organs acting together to perform the specific life process considered as organ systems, such as digestive system. So the tongue along with the stomach and intestine and all, they form the digestive system. Okay. Organ systems together constitute the organism, that is the root system and the shoot system constitute the plant as an organism. So this is how you can say the relationship between the cell to tissue, tissue to organ, organ to organ system and organism takes place. Now we see the first part of the chapter, that is plant tissues. So first thing is we are talking about plant tissues. Okay. Now plant has got two kinds of tissues. One is meristematic and other one is permanent. So we have got two types of tissues over here. The plant tissue has two types. One is meristematic. Okay, it is meristematic, and other is permanent. Okay, so meristematic and permanent. Meristematic tissues are cells can multiply and produce new cells. Meristematic are the one which are found in the growing part of the plant. So all the places where the plant needs to grow, like the tip of the apical bud, then the root tip of the roots, the thickness of the stem. So all these are the areas where they are very soft and they have got a large amount of cell division taking place over there so that they can increase in size. So that is all meristematic. Whereas permanent tissues, non-dividing cells and specialized. They are specialized ones which are non-dividing. They are just present over there. They are going to do the normal job. A lot of job is being done by them, but they are not going to grow. They are just going to be there as a specialized cells. So let's see what are meristematic tissues. Meristematic tissues or meristem found at all growing points of the plant, such as tips of the root, stem and branches. Also, is present between the bark and the wood of the trees, where it leads to growth in the diameter of the stem. So basically what happens is, first is the tips of the roots and stem, and another thing is, if I see a cut section of a plant, so अगर एक झाड़ है उसको ऐसे काट दिया तो ये वाला section है. So this central part over here is called as the cambium. Now here the cell division takes place and keeps on increasing. Hence the size, the diameter of this tree keeps on increasing from the center. So the center of this particular stem is this meristematic tissues. The meristematic tissues are those places where cell division is going to be maximum and their growth of the plant is going to be taken care of. So growth of the plant takes place through the center over here, that's at the cambium. So that are the two places where meristematic tissues are found. First one is the tips of the roots, stem or the leaves or the branches. So that is the first part, and second part will be the inside, that is present between the bark of the wood of the tree, where leads to the growth of the diameter of the stem. So size is ऐसे बढ़ेगी. So we have the first one as the apical and the second one as the cambium. Now we see the characteristics of the two of this particular cells. So let's go one by one. So I'll write right here. First one, the meristematic cells are very small. Okay, the first one is cells are small. In fact, it's quite obvious that the cell will be small. First of all, is because it's a generative kind of cell. So, थोड़ा time हुआ नहीं है, it divides into two. थोड़ा time हुआ नहीं है, it divides into two. So every time it is just going to keep on dividing. So the cell size will be small. Another thing is, it needs to be small so that it is a one which divides the maximum. And when a cell keeps on dividing, it needs a lot of nutrition because cell division is a process where it requires a lot of proteins and lot of nutrition so that it can go about for the growth of the plant. So for the growth of the plant, it requires a lot of nutrition, and nutrition is available best when the cells are small. Because the surface area increases, we are done in the cell chapter, that because the cells are very small, that's why they are able to transfer the nutrients very fast, and that's the reason they are going to be the ones in which the process of transfer of nutrients is going to be very fast. Hence, the cells over here are small. Second, cells are usually cubical. So second thing is cells cubical. Now why cubical? If I see that this would have been two circles like this, okay, this is one circle and this is another circle over here. So, अगर ये दो circle को अगर बाजू-बाजू में रखा तो what is the area of contact between the two? You can see it's only a thin line between the two, right? Just a thin line, right? But if this would have been a square, okay, if this is one thing and this is another thing, and it is like this, what is the surface contact area? Maximum. So if it is cubes, cube will be something like this, okay, or like this. So here cubical, so that the contact or the surface area between the two is maximum, so that the transfer of nutrients is very fast. Okay, so that is the cell as you are usually cubical. The third thing is that the cell wall is thin. So third is cell wall is thin. It is thin because it is growing, so it does not require too much of a support. We have understood that cell wall is the one which is the external support which the cells are going to get from the plants. So here, being in a growth stage, it need not be giving you that much amount of strength, that much amount of support and protection. Hence, it is always going to be thin. So cell wall is thin so that they are always flexible and they are very soft. Third is nuclei are large. Now this is very important. Nuclei are large. See, during cell division, what is going to divide? It is the nucleus which is going to divide. So the main thing what is required in cell division is the nucleus. So because the nucleus is the main part, so and that is going to give rise to the main parts later on. See, because once the cell is going to divide and form into new ones, the older cells are going to die off and or maybe be there over there, and it is going to form into permanent tissues. And these permanent tissues are the ones which are going to be there and doing all the functions. So अगर जब भी वो छोटे हैं तभी उसमें अगर nucleus is not containing everything properly, then when they grow out, they will not be having the same functions proper. Hence, the nucleus will always be proper even if the cell is small. So hence, the nuclei are large. So because the cell is small, the nucleus seems to be large. Actually, the nuclei is the same size as the normal one. But here, because the cell is small, so nuclei feels to be larger. So nuclei are large. The fifth one is vacuoles small, or in fact absent. Or vacuoles almost absent. So we'll say absent. What are vacuoles? Vacuoles are the storage of water and food and such things for the plant. If it is a growing plant, the growing part will require more proteins for cell division. Other than that, it will not require anything to store because itself is going to be having a very short life, because after that it is just going to grow into the next one. So that's the reason the nucleus over here, that's the reason that the vacuoles over here are not needed, because they don't live for a longer period of time that they need to store anything with them. So that's the reason the vacuoles are not present at all. Okay, so vacuoles are absent. The sixth one, cells tightly packed with almost no cellular space. So cells tightly packed. The reason is again the same, transport of nutrients. पास में एकदम चिपके हुए, what will happen? Transfer of food, nutrients from one place to another place very fast. So that's why you want the cell tightly packed so that they can communicate with each other very fast and transfer the food material very fast. Next one is cell actively divides, adding new cells to the plant. So you have got over here the seventh one as, we'll cancel this right now. Cell actively divides to form the new ones. So you can see that because they are the growing parts of the plant, that's why they need to keep on dividing again and again, so that the size of the plant is growing and new leaves and everything are being grown. So the cells actively divide, adding new cells to the plant. Finally, the eighth one is new cells thus produced are transformed into mature permanent tissues. So new cells turn to permanent. Now this is very important here, that what will happen when the new cell is generated? The new cell is generated slowly and becomes a permanent tissue. So accordingly, you will find that meristematic tissues can be as the child which is just going to grow and form into permanent tissues, can be said to be like that. So that's why meristematic tissues are the one which are going to turn, or they are going to be thus produced, are transformed into mature permanent tissues. So we just go through the characteristics of meristematic tissues once again, one by one. Meristematic tissues are, first one, cells are small, very small in size. They are cubical, so that they have got a good surface area and contact between the two. Cell wall is thin, so that they can allow, flexibility is there, and they will allow most of the nutrients to come in and go out. Nucleus are large because cell division is the only thing what is going to take place over here. So nucleus is what is required for cell division. So nucleus are large. Vacuoles absent because it doesn't need to store any food in it. So vacuoles absent. Cells tightly packed so that the transfer of nutrients is very easy. So cells tightly packed. Cell actively divides. So cells are going to divide actively because these cells are the one which are going to form into permanent cells. So that's the next one also, that new cells form into mature permanent tissues. So these are the 8 very important characteristics of the meristematic tissues. Now where are the meristematic tissues available is that the meristematic tissues are classified into 2 categories, that is apical system and cambium or lateral system. So these are 2 kinds. One is apical and another is cambium. Okay, so the apical is the apex, apical or terminal. This is located near the tips of the roots and stem, and also in the growing young leaves near the tips of the stem, as well as on the tips of the axillary buds. So all the tips of stem, axillary bud, young leaves, everywhere where the growth is going to be very significantly seen, these are the locations where apical or terminal places where the meristematic tissues are going to be present. Second is cambium or lateral meristem. I told you that thing, cut section, ये वाला part. तो उसमें center of that particular wooden part, ये tree है, उसको cut किया, तो central part over here, this part over here, this is nothing but the cambium. This is situated below the bark and is responsible for increase in the diameter of the stem. That increases, so diameter of the stem keeps on increasing. So diameter of the stem increases due to the presence of the meristematic tissues in the cambium or the lateral meristem. That was about the meristematic tissues. Now we move on to the permanent tissues. So the next kind of tissues in plants are the permanent tissues. So that's what we are having here. Next is, so we can see here, first of all, plant tissues. Plant tissue is divided into 2 parts. One is over here, meristematic. Meristematic of two kinds. First, apical. Second is cambium. In case of the next part, that is given as permanent. Okay, now we see the parts of the permanent. Okay, so let's see the next thing, that is permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are made up of cells which have lost their ability to divide. So permanent tissues, permanent, naam se pata chalta hai, it cannot be redivided. So that's why permanent tissues have lost their ability to divide. They take a permanent shape to perform some permanent functions. So they are automatically made in a form कि बस अभी जितना टाइम तक वो planned है उतने टाइम तक they are going to perform only one particular kind of function. So that is why they are called as the permanent has lost has permanent shape to perform some permanent function. They may be living, that means they have a nucleus present in it. If they have nucleus present in it, then they are living. And or dead if the nucleus is absent. If after cell division they become permanent and they lose their nucleus, then they become dead. That is, they are dead kind of tissues. According to the functions performed, the permanent tissues are of three types: protective, supportive, and conductive. So we see over here the permanent tissues are protective, the next one is supportive and conductive. Supportive. And the last one is conductive. Okay, so the three kinds of permanent tissues are protective, supportive, and conductive. So first we see is the protective tissue. Protective, we know very well. What does it mean? To protect the whole plant. Protect करने के लिए जो भी tissues है, that will be the one which will be helping the tree or the plant to protect itself. That is nothing but the protective tissue. The cells with thick walls. Here the cell wall needs to be very thick. Why? Because this is the one which is going to give protection from all the external foreign bodies which are going to be on top of the tree. So और वो tree के ऊपर जितने भी चीज है वो सब लोग वो उसको वहाँ पे, like you can see that the woodpecker packing that wood, or the ants moving around over there, we standing over with a support over there. All this is going to be taking place. So वो सबसे protection के लिए it needs a protective part. So that is cell with thick walls found on the surface of roots, stems and leaves. Root के surface पे, stem के surface पे and leaves के surface पे, तीनों पे, whatever are the kind of the tissues which are present are the protective kind. So protective kind are the one which is thick cell wall and present on the surface of the root, stem and leaves. For example, epidermis of the leaves which secrete a waxy waterproof material. See, leaves are waterproof. उसके ऊपर एक waxy coating है, इसलिए पानी जब भी उसके ऊपर गिरता है तो it just drops down. It doesn't become wet. Okay, so it doesn't become wet. It is going to just drift down. So that's why that particular upper layer of the leaf is nothing but a protective tissue. Cork cells in the bark contain another strong waterproof material which is in the cork. So the bark of the tree also contains waterproof material. That's the thing that's the reason that water doesn't enter into the plant from any of the aerial parts of the tree. See, tree कितना भी बड़ा हो, कितना भी बारिश होता हो, फिर भी the aerial parts of the plants will never absorb water. It will be only be taking the water from the ground, that is through the roots. It will never take water from the upper parts. Okay, so that's the reason the upper part over there will be always having a waterproof kind of a coating, which is nothing but the protective tissue. So protective tissue is on the upper layers of the root, stem, leaves, and that's the protective tissue. We take the supportive in the next video.